about 135 miles northwest of Winnipeg, up the number 6 highway. You go up past Ashern, Moosehorn, Grahamdale, and then about 5 miles north of Grahamdale there was a district known as Birch Bay. My grandfather had a medium-sized, well, I guess by today's standards it would be a small farm, and he had an old John Deere Model D tractor, and it was one of the original ones. It didn't have any electric start, was still on steel wheels, you know, with the lugs, and he broke something on that tractor. Now, I can't remember if it was a case of they didn't drain it in the cold weather and the cylinder head cracked, or if it was a manifold that cracked, but whatever cracked, it was made of cast. And the conversation at that time, and I probably was 14, 15 years old, because it was before I could drive, and I started driving at 16, so anyway, yeah, it was cast and it was supposed to be hard to weld. And so they took it to the local blacksmith, I think in Moosehorn, and he welded it. And the conversation was, I don't know if this is going to work because it's cast. But bottom line was, yeah, they got it welded, and it did work. And my grandfather and dad were talking about how this guy must be a really good welder because he could weld cast. Well, yesterday, when I'm fooling around with this thing, I'm thinking about that. So I knew that cast was supposed to be hard to weld. Then I get a comment from different people, and they tell me you have to use a particular type of welding rod. As it turns out, I don't have any welding rods. I just have my MIG welder with a couple of different size wire. And I don't even know what kind of wire it is. Anyway, that's what I'm going to try and do today. I'm going to see if it'll stick to this, because down here at the end should be the same steel as up here. I think this is all the same cast. It's just that this is machined around and it looks nice. Anyway, that's what I'm going to try to do today, see if weld will actually stick to it. Then, if it does, I'm planning on cutting this. That's the idea of cutting is because a couple of viewers suggested, you know, lengthening this out. Now, I know they were maybe thinking in terms of finding another piece of round stock, you know, and just adding it to the end. And that's the way to do it, but I don't have any round stock, at least not that big. So I'm gonna cut it, and then if the weld will stick to it, then I'll try and make some sort of one of the viewers suggested a collar. Well, I don't have any round pipe that size to make a collar, so I'm probably going to use something else, and I don't know what I'm going to do yet. First thing I got to do, will weld, excuse me, will weld stick to this. It may not, and then hey, then we'll just forget about this thing. Then I don't know what I'm going to do. Then I might just make up something out of steel that will look something like this, and it'll somehow fasten onto this. There's holes drilled here, there's a hole here. We'll see. I don't know how the day is going to end. Let's see if weld will stick to this. Okay, my plan is I'm going to leave my welder set for 10 gauge steel, because that's probably what I'm going to end up trying to weld to this. And we'll just see how it'll stick with the settings that it is right now, because I have a difficult time seeing where I'm going, even though I'm wearing these and so on. I guess it's just the way my old eyes are. I can't see really well in dark areas. You know, there's high contrast. I can see great right now. Like I only need these for reading or looking up close. But anyway, yeah. So my thinking is that if I can get it to work with the settings the way they are right now, there's less chance of burning through the 10 gauge accidentally, which I have done. Anyway, we'll get the ventilation system going in here and we'll see what happens. You're probably noticing that I shielded your view. Well, I'm not worried about sparks hitting the camera. I'm worried about the intense light from the arc possibly damaging the sensor. Those of you who are camera buffs, it's a Nikon D810. Had it for a couple or 3 years now. Love it. And it would not be cheap to fix. Well, I think the next thing to do is to see if I can break this off somehow. You know, if it's going to stick, I know that this will stick to the steel, and if it also sticks to the cast, well, I should be able to get this to stick together. I know it's called welding. I've had this drill for about 35 years. Used to be 2 of them, and they were identical except that this one had a 1/4 inch chuck and the other one had a 1/2 inch chuck. This one would go, I think it's up to 2000 RPM, the other one would go only up to 500 but had torque like you wouldn't believe. After about 5 years, the variable speed went on both of them. It was either nothing or full power. And the 1/2 inch one, something happened to the chuck. It just stopped chucking. But something that's interesting to note, these tools were made right here in North America. You know where they're being made now? Asia. We got greedy. We listened to our union leaders, and we went on strike, and the wages went up. So did the cost of the product. We put ourselves out of business. I know a lot of people don't like to hear that, but I think it should be a wake-up call to a lot of people. That's right, my friends. If we want to be great again, we gotta stop voting in leaders who are greed personified. We've got to stop being greedy ourselves, and that also includes me. Now, I used to have a cold chisel. However, this will give me an idea if this weld is just sitting on top of the cast or if it's actually sort of embedded itself into it. So I'll see if it's going to, if it's going to chip off, then of course, game over. Well, like I said before, it might stick. Well, I'm going to do it this way. I may regret doing it like this, but this is the way it's going to go. And I'm going to time it, see how long it takes here. We'll set this more or less at 0. And we'll see what happens here. Well, what was that, 3 minutes? That went a lot better than I thought. Okay, that got rid of the paint. I'll see if I can find something, the right size to weld on there. Now I know that this piece of 1x1 is way too long, but it's just sort of give me an idea here how this is going to go. Now this is going to go down in here, and when the 1x1 is welded on the end here, on the corners where the weld is sort of a bit of a glob, it's not going to allow the shaft here to go all the way down, so I'm going to have to allow for that. I'll have to allow for the globs. So that means that I have to go between here and here with whatever it is, which is probably going to be this. And it has to be, if I wanted a 1/4 of an inch lower than that, well, see if I can figure this out here. Okay, it has to be that high, less a 1/4 of an inch. Well, that's not rocket science. Okay, this blade is already a little bit dull from cutting sandpaper. Don't know what's going to mark here. Oh yeah, that's alright. Sure. Now, we just take off a 1/4 of an inch. Once again, not rocket science. That's pretty close. Alright, so we go from here to about here. And it doesn't have to be exact. Okay. There, I can see that. Yeah, right there. I'll just get my square now and make a line, and then I'll know exactly where to cut. Okay, that was the full length, and here is the less 1/4 of an inch. Should be able to do this now, like that. Oh yeah, I should be able to see that no problem. Okay, now remember to allow for the weld, and I don't want to drop this, otherwise I'll be having to get my magnet to fish it out of there. I think that's about the way it was. Then this will go on here. Then this piece here should fit on the top here like this. Okay. Now then the scraper should go like this. I don't believe it. It's perfect. Yeah. Well, that's easy. All I gotta do now is just weld it, right? Right. That'll be tomorrow.